Take a slow breath, and please stay with me for a moment, because this is not one of those messages you hear and forget 5 seconds later. This is for the person who has felt something they could never fully explain. This is for the person who keeps thinking of someone they should have moved on from by now, yet somehow the feeling still lives under the surface like a quiet, persistent fire. And here is the strange part about it. It is not loud every single day. It does not always arrive like a dramatic event. Sometimes it comes in silence, in a random thought, in a sudden shift in your chest, in the feeling that someone is still tied to you, even when no words are being spoken at all. There is a real reason for that. Someone feels something powerful for you deeply, secretly, in a way they may not even be able to admit to themselves. But this connection feels blocked, restricted, and almost forbidden, and that fact changes everything. Because when a bond feels impossible, it can actually become even stronger inside the people living it. So before you click away, listen closely. What you are about to hear may finally explain the distance, the tension, the mixed signals, and the strange way this connection refuses to disappear from your life. And if this feels personal to you, that is because it is. Stay with me, because the deeper truth behind this bond is far more intense than it first appears to be. There is someone out there who does not feel ordinary about you. They do not feel that way casually, not for fun, and not in a passing way that fades after a few days have gone by. Their feelings move deeper than that, quietly, constantly, with more force than they ever want to admit to anyone. At first, you may have just seemed like another person in their world. Then you became someone they noticed more, then someone they respected, and eventually someone they truly trusted. And before they even understood what was happening, you became someone they could not stop thinking about. That is exactly what makes this situation so difficult. The connection did not grow from boredom or mere convenience. It grew from deep recognition, from something in you that touched something core within them. And that is exactly why it feels so charged right now. What stands in the way is not a lack of feeling. It is timing, circumstance, responsibility, fear, rules, expectations, existing commitments, the kind of things that make people step back, even when their heart is screaming at them to move closer. So, if you have been wondering why the energy feels so incredibly strong, but the actual movement feels so limited, this is why. It is not always because someone cares less about you. Sometimes it is because they care far too much, and they already know that one honest step forward could change more in their life than they are actually ready to change. Keep listening, because that matters more than most people realize. This person is not actually fighting you. They are fighting themselves. That is the first truth you need to understand. They wake up with you already somewhere in their thoughts, and almost immediately they try to shut those thoughts down. They replay small moments over and over again. They remember your words. They remember the feeling of being truly seen by you, and then they pull back from it because wanting you feels dangerous to the life they have already built. For some people, that sense of danger comes from being tied somewhere else emotionally. For others, it comes from family pressure, social rules, personal beliefs, or a path they thought they were always supposed to follow. Sometimes the issue is not that they do not want the connection. It is that the connection exposes how much of their current life no longer feels true, so they stay quiet. They hold back. They watch instead of speak. They retreat instead of confessing. And silence can fool many people. It can look like calm. It can look like distance. It can look like indifference. But very often, silence is not emptiness at all. It is total overload. It is what happens when someone feels too much and has no safe place to put those feelings. So, if they seem controlled on the outside, do not assume there is nothing happening on the inside. The truth is usually the complete opposite, and this is where the push and pull really begins. This is where the bond becomes heavier, more private, and more difficult to ignore. The more they resist, the more the feeling grows. That is what makes this kind of connection so intense. Suppressed emotion does not always fade away. Sometimes it tightens. It condenses. It becomes stronger because it has nowhere else to go. Every time they stop themselves from reaching out, the bond does not disappear. It goes deeper under the surface. Every time they choose to practice restraint, the tension increases. Every time they pretend they are unaffected, the truth keeps pressing from underneath. That is why you may feel strange waves with this person. There are moments when they seem close, even in total silence. There are moments when they are distant, yet somehow still emotionally present. There are moments when you think of them for no clear reason. There are moments when the energy feels unfinished, and it is because it is truly unfinished. That is why it lingers. What has not been named, faced, or lived often keeps moving beneath the surface. It shapes emotions, it shapes timing, it shapes the strange feeling that something is happening even when nothing visible is happening. And on their side of things, this is exhausting. They may look composed, responsible, steady, but inside there is a constant, draining negotiation between desire and control, truth and fear, honesty and consequence. If this connection feels heavy to you, it is because it carries more than simple attraction. It carries real pressure, it carries meaning, it carries the possibility of change, and change is exactly what they are trying so hard not to face. This is why distance has not brought you the relief you expected. Time alone does not erase what has genuine meaning. If this had been shallow, it would have faded by now. If it had only been about chemistry, convenience, or curiosity, it would have burned out and gone cold long ago. But it did not. It stayed. Maybe it did not stay in the same form every single day, but it stayed because this bond is not being fed by habit. It is being fed by deep emotional truth. Something inside both of you shifted the moment this connection began. You may have felt it as recognition, familiarity, a strange ease, or a silent understanding that made no logical sense on paper, but felt undeniable in your body. They felt it too. That is why this does not act like an ordinary attraction. It does not weaken just because it is inconvenient. It does not disappear because logic says it should. It keeps returning because there is something unfinished beneath it. And here is the part that so many people miss. This is not only about wanting each other, it is also about what each of you awakened in the other. You may have stirred parts of them that had been asleep for years. They may have reflected parts of you that were waiting to be seen. So, yes, the longing matters, but beneath that longing, there is something even deeper. There is a true awakening. There is a truth coming closer to the surface, and that is why the bond feels so hard to dismiss. They may go through their days looking normal, focused on work, present with family, doing exactly what they are supposed to do, but their mind circles back to what it cannot finish, and their heart returns to what made it feel alive. They remember how easy it felt with you. They remember how understood they felt without needing to explain every little part of themselves. They remember small moments that should have meant less, yet somehow meant more, and that is exactly why those memories unsettle them so much. Because once someone feels seen at that level, they cannot fully go back to pretending that a shallow connection is enough for them. This is the private cost of holding back. What they suppress begins to show up in other ways. Restlessness, emotional distance, dissatisfaction with choices that once felt stable, questions they were not asking before. They ask themselves why their life feels so tight now. They wonder why something feels missing. They wonder why they are no longer fully at ease where they used to settle so comfortably. And whether they say your name out loud or not, you become part of those very questions. You become a silent contrast between the life they know and the truth they feel. So, if you ever wondered whether this bond changed them too, the answer is yes. Maybe it happened quietly. Maybe it happened invisibly, but it definitely changed how they see themselves and how they experience the world around them. It changed what they can ignore. It changed what feels real. And once that kind of shift truly begins, it does not fully reverse. You are changing as well. That is the second truth I want you to consider. This connection is not only pulling something out of them, it is also waking something up inside of you. After meeting them, you may have noticed that your standards have quietly changed. What you once tolerated now feels empty to you. What once looked like real affection now feels thin and insufficient. What once passed as a genuine connection now feels like only a half presence. You are becoming much more aware of what real depth feels like, and once you know that kind of feeling, it becomes very hard to settle for anything less. That is why letting go has felt so complicated. It is not only about the person, it is about what the connection revealed to you. It showed you the level of honesty your own heart is actually capable of giving. It showed you the kind of emotional resonance that really nourishes you. It showed you the difference between mere attention and real recognition. And that matters, because not every powerful bond arrives in our lives to become a lasting relationship right away. Some arrive first to wake you up, to sharpen your discernment, and to make you less willing to betray yourself just to keep someone close. So, if you have felt torn between longing and growth, I want you to understand this clearly. The lesson of this connection is not to pause your life. It is to deepen your life. It is to make you more honest, more aware, more self-respecting, and more ready for the kind of love that does not require secrecy, constant confusion, or emotional starvation. That is not a small shift. That is a total transformation. Still, there is a reason this bond feels sacred and dangerous at the same time. It is because it does not just offer desire, it offers truth. And truth can feel very threatening when people have spent years building a life around roles, daily routines, and heavy expectations. You are not the reason everything feels unstable for them. You are the contrast that revealed what was already unstable. You did not break their world open. You just lit up the places where it was already cracking. That is why they may move close and then pull back. That is why you may feel warmth from them in one moment and cold distance the next. It is not because they do not know what they feel. It is because they do know. And knowing creates immense pressure. It is the pressure to choose, the pressure to admit the truth, and the pressure to change everything. Many people are not ready for that the moment the truth arrives, so they delay. They rationalize their behavior. They tell themselves it is just a phase. They call it imagination. They try to wait it out, but deep connections rarely disappear through simple neglect. They turn into inner pressure. They become the thing a person keeps meeting in quiet moments, in those restless nights, and in the empty space between what looks fine on the outside and what no longer feels right on the inside. If this sounds familiar to you, stay with me, because this is where your role becomes important. Your job is not to carry their fear for them. Your job is not to spend your time decoding every single silence until it turns into certainty. Your job is to remain honest with yourself while the truth works its way through both of your lives. That is where your power begins to return, because the most dangerous part of a hidden connection is not the longing itself. It is the way that longing can make you forget who you are. It can make you watch for small signs instead of actually living your own life. It can make you hold space for potential while reality keeps giving you nothing but uncertainty. But something in you is changing now. You are learning that deep feeling does not mean endless waiting. You are learning that love should not require you to abandon yourself. You are learning that mystery is not the same thing as readiness, and that intensity is not the same thing as alignment. This matters. It matters because it keeps your heart open without leaving your boundaries open to constant confusion. You can care deeply and still stay grounded. You can feel the weight of the bond and still refuse to build your entire future around someone else's indecision. You can remain compassionate without making yourself emotionally available for endless half steps. That is maturity. That is what this entire experience is trying to teach you. And when you begin to hold the connection in that way, something shifts. It may still matter deeply, but it stops owning you. It stops consuming your whole inner world. It becomes something you understand rather than something that rules over you. And that changes everything, because from that place, you no longer need to chase clarity. Clarity begins to show itself through actions, timing, consistency, and truth. Keep listening, because the next part is where this bond reaches its real test. If this connection is ever going to become something real in the outside world, it will need more than just feeling, more than just chemistry, and more than silent understanding. It will need courage. It will need mutual courage. It will need the courage to speak plainly, the courage to stop hiding behind circumstances that no longer match the truth, and the courage to let behavior line up with emotion. Without that, even the deepest connection stays suspended. It is meaningful, yes. It is powerful, yes. But it is incomplete. And maybe that used to terrify you. Maybe the idea of things being incomplete felt like a major loss. But now you are starting to see something bigger. Meaning does not depend only on a specific outcome. Some bonds become a shared future. Some bonds become a turning point in our lives. Some become the bridge between who you were and who you are becoming. That does not make them any less real. It simply defines their role in your journey. So, if this person ever reaches the point where they are truly ready, you will not have to guess. It will not come through confusing riddles. It will not come through half-hearted messages, emotional hovering, or long, painful stretches of confusion. Real readiness moves in a very different way. It chooses clearly. It shows up openly. It acts with consistency. And if that does not happen, that is information too. Silence is not always a deep mystery. Inaction is still a clear answer. Delay is still a form of choice. This is why your path forward cannot depend on whether they happen to wake up in time. Your life is asking you to move with integrity now, not later. And that is exactly what you are becoming capable of doing. As time moves forward, one of two things usually happens in a connection like this. Either a person rises to the truth they feel, or they retreat even deeper into what feels safe. Some people eventually choose honesty over comfort. Some choose growth over a life that only looks stable from the outside. Some finally admit that what they feel cannot be managed or suppressed forever. But others will simply double down. They hide inside their routine. They protect the image of their life at all costs. They call their own numbness peace because real change asks too much of them. Both of these paths reveal something important, not through hollow promises, but through their actual behavior.